Welcome back, everybody. It's Guns and Mental Health. It's a new year. It's 2025. We're 10 days into it. And if anybody asked how 2025 was going to kick off, I don't think we were going to have any of this on our bingo card. But here we are. And it's been a hot minute since I was in this chair doing this podcast, mostly because I've had stuff going on in my own life. But we're not going to get into it because it's not about me. But we do have William Sandoval here from Ocufii. Mike and I met him when we were down in Arizona in early November for the Attorneys on Retainer first annual conference. And we presented there and we talked about WTTA, and it was really cool. And we've had a couple of their folks on our show too. But William had a booth there and he was demonstrating some of his products, which he's going to tell you about. But before we get into that, let's flip it over to him. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, sir? Where you came from, how you got into this line of work, and where you live, most importantly, because you've dealt with your own disaster recently too.
Yeah, well, Jake, Michael, and Kevin, thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. It was great to meet you guys at AOR. It was like an immediate connection, and when that happens, I think it just makes things a lot easier, and we just had a lot of fun. But just to give you a little bit about my background, again, William Sandoval, I'm the CEO and founder of Ocufii, and we're a startup, we're a technology startup, right? Most of my career was around making technology products, and especially around the Internet of Things and connecting devices and making them talk, and more importantly, creating levels of information that people could use to manage their lives better. And approximately 2.5 years ago, it was actually, I mentioned to you guys that I live in Western North Carolina, about 40 minutes away from Asheville. And I was in my home, and my wife and I had a trip to Charlotte, and I left my firearm out, in my house here in Western North Carolina. And I'm driving, and it dawned on me. I'm like, with everything that we do with technology, right? Why is it that we have not been able to utilize technology to give us a better way to manage our firearms? I'm a gun owner. I love firearms. I think that they're great. They serve a purpose. But ultimately, it's about gun safety, right? And at that moment in time, it kind of hit me that what can we do to bring the technology that is readily available in other industries and apply it so that we could enhance the safety and security of firearms? And I was actually in the transition of my corporate world, and I just decided, hey, why don't we just really focus on making something that people could utilize and that could change people's lives? And that's when it all started. It came from just being an idea, and in that little moment in time when something just hits you. And eventually, we just built a team around it. I called a bunch of, people that had been in the industry, and I just said, "Hey, look, I got this crazy idea. I don't know where it's going to go, but are you guys in it?" And a couple of my ex-colleagues said, "Hey, absolutely, let's do it." We all are farm owners, but we knew technology so well that we just decided to apply it. And in a nutshell, that's really how we started the company, right? It came from an immediate thought and a need to put in the two pieces together of technology that was available in the market and the necessity of enhancing security and safety, for people, as well as making sure that we manage our firearms in a better way. So from there, we kind of evolved, and you guys know how startups are very challenging, from having to work endless hours all the way to trying to figure out how to fund your next development and eventually getting something to market. But I'll tell you one thing, I will never trade it for anything in the world. It's been one of the best journeys of my life and the team. And we're just very excited that, we're seen to be getting a lot of notice, and a lot of people are taking, a view of what we do and how they could apply it themselves, not only to firearms, but other things in their lives. So it's been great, and we hope that 2025 is going to allow us to expose more about what we do and how it could really make a difference in people's lives across the board.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that the idea itself and how you implement it and what it looks like in practicality. Because Mike and I were very impressed with the responsiveness of this product, and we haven't actually described what it is yet. So why don't you do that? Tell everybody what it is, and give them a website too if they're listening, maybe at work or something. They can pull up the website and follow along.
Sure. The concept is actually very simple. In compared to other things that I've done with technology, this concept is so simple that sometimes when we show it to people or we explain it to people, they go, "Why wasn't that available 5 or 10 years ago?" Right? And we go, "We don't know the answer to that, but what we do know is that technology is available now, and here's a product around it." For viewers that want to follow us and see what we really developed, they could go to our website at www.ocufii, and that is ocufii.com. Our website is actually very, I think, is it's very clear on what the products are and what the technology is, and how it could be utilized across different use cases, not just firearms. But in this case, firearms is our primary goal. So after the idea started, knowing that there's a lot of technology or micro technology that's available, we decided to create a movement detection system that will allow anyone that has a cell phone anywhere in the world to have access to information around their firearms. Basically, it started with what we call a building block. And this is, you're looking at what our little building block is. It's basically a little Bluetooth beacon. And this beacon is actually the size of basically 2 quarters when they're stacked. Very small. Actually, a lot of people compare it to an AirTag, but the reality of it is the functionality is completely different. Um, One of the
That was going
things
to be
that,
my next question.
yeah,
How do you differentiate yourself? Because a lot of gun owners will say, well, I use AirTags.
yeah.
So
And that's a great question, Michael. We get that all the time, right? And the biggest difference is, one, we're one of the smallest beacons or Bluetooth beacons in the market, right? But more importantly, the functionality, the difference between an AirTag and us is that the AirTag is what we call a passive device. It doesn't really communicate with you unless you ask it to communicate, right? And more importantly, the AirTags require a connection through a cell phone. So when people are using AirTags, they put the AirTags on, a piece of luggage, or they put it on a purse. That device is actually only talking to you when you ask it to talk to you. So that means you're required to ping it, you're required to ask it to do something. We felt that that was not what was needed in the firearm industry, right? Because of the criticality of a child or a person grabbing a firearm that could be loaded or unloaded. We felt that we needed instant response and instant information to be shared with that firearm owner. So we are not a passive device, we're an active device. This device is talking to us every 1 second. Every second, this device is saying, "I'm here, guys. Listen to me. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay." But when there's movement, he immediately says, "Hey, there's movement. There's an accelerometer in here that took us a year and a half to calibrate, so that it was actually set up to work with firearms without giving you, positive or false alerts," right? So when someone moves this beacon, immediately within 1 second, we basically get notified that that firearm has been moved or that that object has been moved. We pass that to our cloud, we process it in milliseconds, and we get you a notification on your phone in no more than 10 seconds. So from the time someone picks up a firearm, an object that has our beacon on it, to the time that you receive a notification that that has actually, happened, is no more than 10 seconds. The goal of that was to make sure that this acted like a security device, so that in case there is an immediate need for you to do something, that you will get notified instantly, so you could react or decide what type of action you want to take once you receive that notification. But again, this is the building block. Everything that you're going to hopefully see here in a second started with this little beacon. This was what we started with, and now we have actually moved this into a full line of firearm safety devices that are fully communicating at all times, so that you know what is actually happening to them at that specific moment when someone moves that object.
Yeah, for the listening audience, if you're not watching the video, what William's holding there is something that looks like a an oversized Tums tablet. It's about a quarter, the size of a quarter, a U.S. quarter dollar, and it's about the thickness of one of those like Gatorade or Powerade things that you drop into a thing of water. So it's an oversized Tums tablet, is what it is. So um, it's pretty cool, and I like the responsiveness. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't address the suspicion that people have around technology, right? And we need to get into that probably just a little bit. We've had Timmy O from Fire Safety on the show. He's a friend. We've had Jeremy Van Winkle from Gun Locks on the show. He's a friend.
We have
Now
Patrick
we've got
Batania
you,
from Gun Alert.
Patrick Batania. Yeah, and we understand that there's different technologies for different people. I mean, we don't know the people from Stop Box, but that's another device that prevents access, usually for children. It's not necessarily regarded as a safe. But the point is, we got this variety of products on the market, and they're not for everybody, right? There isn't one size fits all, and I want to address that first and say I don't really care whether or not you think that this thing is the be all end all. The point is, it's going to work for somebody and probably a whole bunch of somebody's. And it doesn't even have to be firearms. Like, you could take this tag and stick it on your vehicle and know if your vehicle's been stolen, right? Like, you can do that with a higher degree of responsiveness than an air tag. So I want to get that off the table and say, I'm not interested in people criticizing this for the sake of like, oh, it's going to be talking and there's technology and it can be hacked. Okay, whatever. It's not for you then. So moving on past that, let's talk a little bit about where the data go and what type of data your people are or are not capturing as it goes through your servers, your cloud, your system. Is it just a pass through, or are you monitoring some of this stuff? Or like how much of this is accessible by people who are not the end user, me, Mike, you, whoever. So if you could address that a little bit and maybe speak to some of the perceived fears that might be out there.
Sure. Having been in technology for the last 35 years, right, there is all these different perceptions about what technology can and cannot do, who's really looking at the data, who's not, who has access to the data, and so on. So after we started with the whole idea, we created the first prototype. One of the first things that we did is we actually visited or attended close to 200 different gun shows on the weekends. And literally, we walked in and we had a little bag with our devices and we showed them to people. And we said, look, you're not going to hurt my feelings. You either love it or you don't, or give me some feedback, right? But ultimately, the idea behind that was the more we learn about what people are saying, the more we could adjust our development, right? The first thing that we learned is that there were actually three segments of people, right? Ones that were, to your point, Jake, they said, absolutely not. This is crazy. Someone is going to hack my data. The government is going to come after me. You had that kind of, individuals telling us that. Then you had the other types of individuals that actually wanted more than what we were actually showing. They actually were the tech savvy individuals that said, absolutely, this is great. I want to use it. We even had a lady that came to us and took our little device and actually says, look, I don't care about firearms. What I care about is that my grandkids show up to my house and I have narcotics. I'm an older person and I have pain pills and things like that. I want to know that my grandchildren didn't take my pills, right? So she actually put this in her little pill bottle and felt that this was perfect for her, right? But the common theme that we got out of all these sides was that privacy of information was extremely critical to them, right? And that tracking, which is something that an AirTag does and others, was not necessarily something that everybody wanted. Some people wanted tracking devices, some people did not. But ultimately, security of their information was the top of the hill about, we want this to be secure. So we actually did that. when you're using our system, our mobile application does not require your name or any of your personal information. All you really are basically entering is your email and a password of your choice. We verify that that email is a true individual, but outside of that, I'm not asking you for any information around that. When you actually are setting up the beacons, right? The beacons have a little QR code on the back. You take your phone and you actually, scan that, and it has a MAC address, just like a computer. That's all we need. We give you the optional fields for you to put the location of where it is, or what type of object it is actually, installed on. But outside of that, all we need is an email, a password, and the MAC address of the device. We do not collect anyone's information. So it was a big deal for us to make sure that people understood that security and their privacy was important. The other thing about this is that there is no cellular technology in it. Cellular technology could be pinged to actually triangulate and know where this device is located. We do not have cellular technology, so being able to know where the device really is something that is not possible, right? So we took the steps and we took the technology and make the right modifications to our software to minimize anything like that. We actually run, to your point, all of our data is being run through Amazon Web Services. We felt that we needed to play with the big players in the market, okay? And especially we wanted to make sure that we were following their security protocols. So all of our data is fully encrypted from the point that it goes out onto the web, okay, is fully encrypted. And by the time we send it out, it's fully encrypted. Now, to your point, you could argue that encryption could be broken. Yes, I mean, anything is possible, right? But at least we have taken the steps to make sure that the standards we use are set up and that are, you know, um, basically understood and that are accepted in industries that are outside of the firearm industry. So our data is fully secure, fully encrypted, and like I said, more importantly, we don't collect any personal data, right? Now, information about when this moves, how many times it pings. Yes, we collect that data. We collect it for 30 days. After 30 days, it's completely erased unless you as the user decide that you want to download it. And then it's up to you to take that step and download it into your laptop, your phone, whatever you want. But for us, every 30 days, the data completely disappears and it starts from scratch again.
For nerds out there, and I like to think that I used to be one, what are you using that's not cellular technology that communicates that but can't be pinged?
Yeah, so basically, our system is basically two building blocks, right? The beacon, which is Bluetooth, and we're using the latest Bluetooth technology, and then there is a little base station. This is the size of two cigarette boxes, okay? And all you have to do is plug it into an outlet. This device communicates to the beacon, but it also connects to your Wi-Fi network at home, right? So basically, once this is communicating to the base station, the data goes out to the web. And the only thing that we know is that you are connected to your house router. That's it, right? You don't even know that this device is, which device it is, what room it is on, etc. So can we ping the base station to know that everything is working fine? Yes. Can we do software upgrades? Yes. But necessarily knowing the location, the only thing we really know is that this is going through some Wi-Fi router that you already have in your home. So we really are not doing anything different than anything else you have done before. Just like when you connect your TV or your refrigerator or even your garage door openers that connect to Wi-Fi, we're doing exactly the same thing as those devices, right? So if you're comfortable with those, you should be comfortable with this product as well.
Yeah, that's it sounds like I have a weather station that does that. My Blink cameras do that. But my question then is, if I wanted to take that with me somewhere else to travel, do I have to take the base station with me then?
Yes, in this case, you do. We actually have customers that, and especially, dealers that sells firearms. All these shows that happen every weekend. Those guys have to travel and they carry, not only money, but they also are carrying firearms and all these different products, right? And a lot of times they leave them in their, hotel rooms. So
Sure.
one of the things is you could take the base station, unplug it. You will get a notification that the base station has, it's not live. You take it back to your hotel room, plug it back in, take the app, set it up with the Wi-Fi network that's in the hotel, and you're ready to go. Okay. So you could, but you do have to travel with this device. Now, one of the things that has been interesting to us, and even though we're firearm owners, we didn't really understand the amount of guns that are stolen every year. And the number is exuberant, right? I mean, we're talking thousands of guns. So we started talking about the idea of where are those guns stolen from? Well, we have the house covered now, right? Because we have the system. But how about your car? Let's say you go to the gun range or you're traveling. So we actually are in the midst of developing a mobile base station that could actually fit your car, and that will actually also have a cellular connection, so that if you have a firearm in your vehicle or any other type of asset that you want to monitor, the base station in your car will be able to let you know whether someone has broken into the car, has taken one of those devices, and more importantly, if they steal the car, we'll be able to notify you as well. That is actually in full development right now, and we hope to have that sometime in Q1 of this year, with the idea that we needed a mobile type of base station that was easier for you to use within a car or be able to travel with it. And so we just decided that this was important for us to attack. So we're also trying to attack that problem as we speak.
Final question on that is if I wanted to, if I were a gun dealer and I was traveling around, or if I'm Rob Pincus and I'm always doing the traveling roadshow,
Mhm.
could I buy multiple base stations and one of which may plug into, or if I have a power inverter in my car, because a lot of them are doing that these days, can I use maybe not my cellular technology on my phone because they're not there yet, but could I use the Wi-Fi hotspot?
Yes, you can. Absolutely. So that's actually a very good question, and we don't get that too often. But the base station was actually designed with a USB connector on it. Okay. So when you actually walk into your car, right, you're not going to have 120 volts, but you do have one of those, lighter plugins or USB, wire, cables. So you're able to connect it here and then set this up in your car's Wi-Fi hotspot or in your cell phone hotspot, and you'll be able to use it. So yes, this is actually a global product. We do not sell products yet outside of the US because we're really focused on that. But since day one, the design of this was to be global, so it works, across all voltages and on all different types of frequencies. So yes, this will work with your vehicle battery, just like it will work with your laptop USB connection, so that you have that flexibility in case 120 volts is not available to you at that moment in time.
Just kidding. That was not my last question. My last question is, what's the range?
So the range of the base station is actually a 300-foot diameter, okay, and it's 360 degrees. One of the things we wanted to make sure is that we had enough coverage. Now, knowing that every use case is different, right? You're going to have walls. Some people are going to have them in basements, right, etc. You could add additional base stations so that you have much better coverage. Now, some of the feedback that we had from people was, "Hey, I don't know if the beacon is really communicating to the base station, and I don't know if I'm going too far, etc." So in our app, when you do the setup, there's a little red, kind of badge, and that badge shows you that when you're really close to the base station, it's green. As you move away from it, it turns yellow. And when you are way out of bounds, it actually turns red. The idea there was that most people don't know what distance this is able to cover, right? And neither do we once this is applied, right? But by showing graphically on our software that you're able to see that difference, that makes it easier for the user to understand that I'm too far or I'm within the right distance for this to have the proper coverage. So again, this was part of the feedback that we have received from people that have used our product. and we have made the modifications to adapt it and make it a lot easier for them to use.
Yeah, so the first time I actually saw you speak on this product was at the Goals, yeah, the GOA conference in Knoxville, and you had actually gotten time on stage, like you were one of the speakers. How did that come about? And like, does an organization like Goals, were they skeptical of this at first, or had you developed a relationship? Because I'm always curious about, like Jake said, when technology comes, our industry has a tendency to jump back and be skeptical.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, by the way, there's a little funny story around that, Mike. You saw me come up on stage, right? And I'll tell you how they invited me to present. But the funny thing is, I get there, right? And I go backstage. And by the way, I had never been backstage, and there's all these people, going crazy, trying to figure out who's next and, who's saying what and how much time they got. So I talked to the guy, the producer. He says, "Yeah, you're next. You're coming up in 5 minutes." So of course, I get ready, right? And then literally 2 minutes before that, he goes, "You can't go upstage." He says, I really screwed up. I'm really sorry, but you actually are after the Olympian, right?" So they brought an Olympian fire, a gun rifle person. And he was just like, "Are you kidding me? You're going to put me after an Olympian," right? So everybody in the back was just laughing, what this is going on. Well, she finished, and I was joking with the guys, and all of a sudden they're calling my name 3 or 4 times, and I didn't come out. So it was just really funny that happened, right? But I
Was that
really did
Gabby?
appreciate that. Say that again, Mike.
Was that Gabby?
No, it was not Gabby. It was I can't remember her name, but she was getting an award, from the GOA, and and everybody's applauding, and and that's like this, and I'm going, my God, how can you beat an Olympian, right? On stage. So it just became the joke for all of us that they go, hey, William always follows Olympians, right? So that's what happened.
No, but real quick,
Yeah,
William, the irony of it is when I went to your booth, because I believe you had a booth there too. Gabby was talking to William, Jake.
Oh, that's really funny. It's like
yeah,
that
you know,
Capital
the
One
interesting
commercial
thing
with the
is,
guy on stage with Derek Jeter and the astronaut.
Yeah.
by the way, Gabby has it's funny because Gabby has it's very popular. She knows a lot of people, and an Olympian. She's been in TV shows, and she came by the booth, and she was interested in learning more about what we were doing, and afterwards we actually have been in conversations for her to do a lot more with Ocufii and really drive this gun safety technology approach, right? So she's been a big proponent, and she's turned into a great friend, and we talk all the time. And I really value her experience, and on what we should do moving forward to get this acceptance. Because you're absolutely right, Mike. That's been one of the biggest learning things for us, right? When people say, "How come this wasn't here 10 years ago?" I mean, think about it. All we have is a little device that when things move, you get notified immediately. So you could take actions, right? Not, I mean, our phones do things that are more complex than that. But I think that the challenge that we have learned in this industry is the acceptance of technology, and that there's a lot of fear of what technology could do to change the narrative around firearms. And in my opinion, right, the there should be a lot of acceptance of what technology could do to really drive some of this, you know, gun safety mentality. Um, and people shouldn't be afraid of it. We all carry a cell phone. If you carry a cell phone and you accepted that, the stuff that we're talking about is so small in technology comparison that there shouldn't be any fear around that. To your point about GOA, they actually approached us and said, "Hey, we heard about your product. You explained it to us. We're not an experts. We don't want to be experts, but we do want to expose people to the possibilities," right? It was not about, you have to have this. It was more about, here are options, right? And these options could be good for you, or they might not be. From a perspective of Occupy, that's really what we want to drive. Our goal is about gun safety, is about empowering firearm owners with technology that will allow them to get information that will allow them to create actions that could save a life, right? From a child at home to suicide prevention. We've been working very closely with some partners around suicide prevention and how our technology could be utilized there. But again, I think that that's been the biggest learning for us. Not being part of the firearm industry, and being technology guys. And it's funny. Jake says, I'm not a nerd anymore. I consider myself a nerd. I could talk about this for
Forever.
hours, right? But ultimately, we have learned that there's this fear, there's concerns about technology, but we also have seen that there's a shift because the new generation of people that are becoming firearm owners have grown up with a phone. They have grown up with technology. And when they see, a cable lock or a trigger lock that's been around for 40 years, they go, how come this doesn't talk to me? Right? So we set out to solve that problem. So this show to me was, very important because it is about giving people options. And Ocufii is just another option, another tool in the toolbox for them to utilize to enhance the safety of their loved ones, safety of their friends, and just take a little bit more accountability and around firearm safety in general, right? So we're really happy that we are here, but at the same time, we know we have a long way to go in changing the narrative and getting people away from being afraid of technology and how technology could really impact our lives.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I don't want to just make it sound like the the 2A community, the Second Amendment community, the gun culture is the only ones that need to be educated. Because I just came back from a research conference to prevent gun violence in Seattle. Gun violence is always a term that we all kind of roll our eyes on because we all know there's not microphone violence if I hit Jake over the head with this or vice versa, right? It's just considered violence. But we have circled our wagons so tight that a lot of non-gun people, a lot of people in behavioral health don't even know that these options exist, or we're doing these things or taking these steps to create this technology that could save a life. And maybe you're not using the Tag Me product all the time. Maybe you bring it out when your kid is, your daughter, your son is in a mental health crisis, and you add that extra layer of security to the whole family by using the product, right? And when the outside world, when behavioral health people and clinicians like Jake and Jake is he's one of ours. He's on our side. But when they hear about these things and they know that these are options that they could recommend to their clients that they would have never known about before, because like I'm not into golf. I don't know the latest trends in golf. I'm not going to go find out the latest trends in golf. If I have a really good friend who golfs, they're probably going to tell me, right? But now we need to bridge that gap also to the behavioral health community to let them know that these products exist and that gun owners are using them and open to using them. And now they're like, okay, wow, all right, I didn't know. This is awesome. And then also too, they have the ability to purchase these things and give them out to people in those times of crisis. So I think this where it's twofold, right? It's educating the firearms community and then going to the behavioral health side and letting them know this all exists.
Yeah, and I can tell you that the biggest challenge for a startup like ours, right, is not about the technology. I think that we know technology. It's not about finding partners that are willing to work with you to develop those products to make it easier for people to use. It's about getting the word out. It's about letting the world know that options do exist, right, and that you don't have to use them, but if you ever need them, they're available, right? And I think that the education and the visibility to technology is something that I hope that we could change over time, and specifically around the firearm industry, right? There's a lot of people that are using technology, but they don't see it in this industry. And I think that we got to be able to bridge that gap, right? Because there's some serious problems or challenges, for lack of a better word, right? Suicides is something that you guys are very close to, and you are experts on that. But as things change in the world, there's always options, and I think that we got to find more options to help that challenge and to address that challenge, right? And it's not necessarily to take the gun away from that individual, but there's technology that will allow for them to continue to live their lives, but have a better connection to it. The same thing from, I just read a study on the CDC about the amount of um, families or homes that have firearms, but they don't secure them properly, right? And the numbers are pretty high. Now, does that mean that 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 we should take the guns away from people? No, it simply means that we need to look at options, right? Uh, and today, I just think that there is lack of awareness, there's lack of visibility, there's lack of education. And if we could bridge those things, I think that people will endorse a lot of the new products, not only from Ocufii, but from others that could actually enhance their safety, secure their farms better, and just, have a safer environment for their loved ones, right? And that's kind of our goal. Our goal is to educate people, give them the options, and let them decide whether we're the right option for them. If we're not, great. Then we're not. There's other options that they could look at. But if we are the option, then here it is, and we're more than happy to work with them on bridging that gap.
Mike, something's dawning on me right now. Is it's been a little over 2 years since we produced the static version of our entry level course, our level one cultural competence course, and we did a lot of exposure to quick access safes and that kind of thing. Storage mechanisms for responsible gun ownership. But in that time, the four people we just mentioned, they all came on this year. Well, I mean, within the last calendar year, Jeremy, Timmy, William, Patrick, and we didn't include that in the course because it wasn't out. Like maybe it was, but we didn't know about it or whatever. But now it's all full fledged. It's almost like we need to create an addendum, a standalone 10-minute video or something. And then on top of that, when we travel to places and we do our education and training, we need to be bringing these things with us, I think, to demonstrate to the lay people, to the behavioral health professionals, to the medical professionals, to say it's not just the Voltec single pistol biometric or touchpad storage case that you can carry with you, or the one that bolts to your wall or whatever. Like, I think we need to start bringing these things around and maybe put together a 10 or 15-minute follow-up to say, hey, in the last 2 years, here's an update. We can't recreate the whole course. That was a horrible project. It wasn't horrible. It was really fun, but it took like weeks and weeks and weeks for Kevin to produce all the videos and all that stuff. But I just realized there's a critical need now that people who took that course may be very limited in their options anyway, even if they are earnestly endeavoring to get the information out. And I think we Walk the Talk America has to play a role in that, because we do seem to be the epicenter of this conversation, because we're the ones talking to everybody, because we play well with all people. And I think we need to start doing that. So maybe send us what you have and we'll just carry it around with us, like we do with the the quick access safes when we bring them to SHOT, or we take them to Wyoming, or we go to Wisconsin, or whenever we're given a presentation. I think we need to have at least one representative product of each of these people we talk to and their companies, and start saying, not only do you have the traditional methods, now we have the more technologically evolved methods. And I also say, I want to share a story too about the newer generation. It is trickling up the generational ladder too. People are just becoming more accustomed to technology of the modern sense, not just the old technology of the key and lock. My profession was very suspicious and very aloof when it came to telehealth until COVID hit. And I say this whenever I tell the story, is like, I thought when we locked down, the one silver lining, if there was nothing else that was good that was going to come from that, and it turns out there was a lot of good that came from it, but the silver lining was going to be that it was going to compel our profession to become competent at the telehealth interface, because we'd been suspicious of it forever for all the same reasons: safety, security, hacking, confidentiality, privacy. Well, it turns out everybody's fine. And I think, unfortunately, the pendulum may have swung a little too far. And now people are doing online only telehealth, which is, this isn't the place to debate that. But the point is, now we're all accustomed to it. It's almost like we expect it. You almost wouldn't go to an agency seeking counseling services if they didn't have that as a backup in case you were under the weather, or there's actual inclement weather, or you're running late from your appointment and you can pull over the side of the road and have your session in a parking lot, because it's just expected. I think as people continue to evolve and the demographics grow who are comfortable with cellular technology and Wi-Fi technology and the cloud, it's almost requisite that a company that's offering a locking mechanism for firearm safety needs to have something that's meeting the need of the current iteration of firearms owners. So I think we have a responsibility to continue pushing that now, and we can get creative with Kevin and figure out how to do that in a static way in our website and all that stuff, and the promotional materials we produce. But also, we ourselves have to start carrying this stuff around with us, just like we do with our stickers and our wristbands.
Yeah, I could tell you, to add to that, Jake, I've been in conversations with a few influencers, for lack of a better word, that have reached out to us, for us to sponsor shows and things of that nature. But the interesting thing about it is that as we get into a discussion about what Ocufii does, what I've been sharing with them is that it's been very interesting because you see a lot of podcasts, not yours, but you see a lot of podcasts and a lot of videos about the next gun, right? And what is the latest material, or we took out a millimeter, to make it lighter, right, etc. The same thing for gun accessories. I barely see anything on safety devices, right? And I was telling these individuals, I said, hey, one way to differentiate yourselves from everyone else that is showing the same firearm, etc., is maybe educate people about gun safety and the options that are available there, right? I said, and I even have thought about it ourselves of creating a, firearm safety podcast, right? That is about firearm safety, the options that are there, the benefits about thinking through this. And by the way, it is cost effective now, right? I mean, it's been very interesting to me to see that you could, get a firearm for $200, $300, or you could go up to thousands of dollars. But the technology that you guys just saw, right? And I'm not trying to, pitch our products, but the technology that you just saw is under $100, right? And you kind of sit here and you go, if people could afford a firearm and they could afford ammo to go out there, on the weekends, can they afford a $99 safety device that could be life changing, right? So to your point, I do think is about the exposure and the education. It's interesting. I wrote an email to my partners a couple of days ago with our 2025 strategic plan for us to grow as a business, right? And one of the things that I pointed out is that it's been my perception that firearms are cool, fun, right? And, they serve a purpose. But when it comes to firearm safety devices, whether it's ours or anybody else, they're not cool. They're not exciting, right? And but they make a huge impact in people's lives, right? So one of the things we've been thinking about is how do we turn things upside down? How do we go from, hey, you got a boring safety lock or boring, storage case with biometrics. How do we turn that into something fun, something that people will be willing to talk about, something that they will say, I gotta have that, and they understand the value behind it, right? So there is definitely a big challenge. I told my partners that we are basically creating a new category, right? And that new category takes a lot of time and effort to get it to the masses, and more importantly, for people to understand that. But it will be great to your point, Jake, to think about how do we start to really bring this out, educate people really quick, um, give them the options, but at the same time, make some of these products exciting for them to utilize and to have access to.
We have a question in the chat about the oversized Tums beacon and whether or not it's the only style of beacon that you have, and if so, how does it attach to a firearm? Because I'm thinking, yeah, that's probably inconvenient if you're putting it on the grip, right? But
Yes,
on the
correct.
holster, probably it works. Or I was thinking on the door of my safe. If somebody broke in and the safe door swung open, I would want to know that because there's a
Yeah.
bunch of guns in there. But you have other sizes.
So yeah, so we actually Ocufii, we actually have two product lines. One of them is called Tag Me Alert, and the other one is called Tag Me Secure. Tag Me Alert is basically the small beacon, right, that you just saw, that you could put on any type of object. We also have what looks like a smart watch, but it's also a beacon that you could wrap around anything, right? But we also understand that these things might not fit firearms. So we worked with one of the largest manufacturers. We're not experts on firearm, locks or anything like that. So we went and we found a partner that was more than willing, because they felt the same way. They go, look, cable locks, trigger locks, they're all over the place, right? 40-year-old technology. How do we evolve them? So we basically lockstep on the fact that we needed to evolve those products, and we have, right? So we actually have in our Tag Me Secure line, we actually have a complete line now of products that are specific to firearms. Okay. So the standard cable lock that you see everywhere that you could buy for $5, $10, right? Now has been redesigned so that we could actually put our technology into it. Okay. So it actually comes with a little, lock, right? A little cover. You actually has 4 screws that require a key for you to be able to remove, right? But now when you put this lock around a firearm, if someone picks up the firearm, even though they cannot do anything with it, you will know that someone has taken your firearm, right? We also have done that with the trigger lock. You see this all over as well,
This is my
but they
favorite
have
part
been
here.
redesigned now with the capability for you to be able to have that same level of technology, right? So we understand that we needed to build products or solutions that were firearm specific, right? And so on. So with the right partners, we've been able to get this into place. Now, one of the products that I want to quickly show is that we basically, and this is the one that you guys got to see at AOR,
Yeah, this
is
is
what
cool.
we
I
Yeah,
love
what
this.
we
this is the
call the
one.
slide lock, right? The slide lock was designed because there's a lot of momentum in the industry right now to go to quick access, devices. People want to have their firearm, next to them in case, someone breaks in, but there wasn't a device available that will allow them to lock that firearm when it's not in use and enable it immediately within a second or two when they need it, right? So we work with a partner. This partner, very smart individuals, also a startup, and they created a slide lock. What we have done is we have added our technology today on the outside because we wanted to get this to market, but in the future on the inside. But what he does, he actually mounts on the firearm, and I got a firearm here. I already checked it. Everything is good to go. You actually, let me open this up here. Okay. You actually mount it on the rail, okay? And you pull back the slide, and then this little arm that you see here basically locks the slide immediately from moving forward, right? The idea here is that when you actually need it, right, all you do is press the biometric here. It takes up to 50 readings, and it unlocks the device within a second. Okay, that allows the slide to move forward and for your firearm to go into battery and be ready for use. Right. This is a new product. This is actually something we're launching here actually this month, and we're very excited about this because now it will give the users the opportunity to lock their firearms, but be ready to go within seconds in case they really need them. So from our perspective, our product is not just the little building block. We basically have been able now to have, the technology embedded into cable locks, into trigger locks, and now this new, what I call exciting slide lock that we're bringing out to market. Uh, One point that I want to make around this is that knowing that we are the technology guys, we understand that we're not going to be able to make every device in the industry, right? We just are not. So we have created what we call an Ocufii Ready program. And what we do is that if companies want to embed our technology into their devices, we work with them so that they become Ocufii Ready. Why is that a big deal? The big deal around that is because we actually, they don't need to invest the money on the software development. They don't need to invest the years and effort that we have in building all the infrastructure
Right.
that will work. So all they have to do is mechanically make the changes, embed our technology, and the rest of it works seamlessly. And they could take it to market and they don't have to worry about managing anything after that. So that's a program we created because of this partner, right? This partner came to us. They understood that this was in line with their vision, but they basically didn't have the knowledge around software and the knowledge about technology. So we created this program specifically for them, and we have rolled it out to the rest of the industry now.
Mike and I got to try this down at the AOR conference, and it was really impressive. One question that I think I had there, and also is just showed up in the chat, is does it have a flashlight on the slide lock? Because I don't see people giving up their weapon light for that. And yeah, it's true. You'd have to swap one for the other. And I don't know if that's something in the future because you'd have to remove. I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't have to remove it. Maybe it just stays on the rail, and that little servo arm. I don't know if you could hear it if the listening audience isn't watching the video. You could hear the bzz, 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 bzz.
Yep.
It removes the little arm that prevents the slide from moving forward. And it's very quick. And it's very responsive, and I was very impressed by it. And I'm wondering if you can embed a light into that thing because it's about the same size. It's about the size of a key fob or a weapon mounted light.
So, two answers to that. One is the slide lock does have a rail underneath, so that if you could actually install an aftermarket, light or a laser underneath of it, so that you don't lose sight of that. Now, some people say, "Hey, can you embed it?" So we're planning for the future once we're able to get the funding and everything else we need to actually take our technology embedded inside so that we could open this area up so that you could just plug in a light or plug in a laser or a combination directly on it. But today, if you need it, there is a rail right underneath where you could actually install that product right away.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How roughly what's going to be the cost of this? I mean, I know you're.
Yeah, so MSRP for the devices are they start at $80 for the new cable locks and trigger locks. This one, because of the technology behind it, this one is about $320 MSRP, right? So it's in line with a biometric storage case, right? But we do know that over time we're going to have to bring the prices down to make it more available to everyone. But today, because this is a brand new product and it's something, so we're in that $320 range MSRP. Now you could probably get it lower in your retailer, but that's the MSRP that we are basically promoting at this point.
And what channels are you planning on selling through? Is it going to be the Amazons or also, obviously gun shops go through distribution?
So all of the above, right? We kind of realized that one size doesn't fit all. Even though when we started the company, we were really focused on only retailers, we kind of realized that that covers a certain segment, but there's other segments that needed opportunity to have access to the product. So we do have our own online store that we just launched at the end of this year. It's occufistore.com. You could go there and basically get access to these products, and we ship them directly from our warehouse. In parallel to that, we are working with retailers throughout the nation that are starting to pick up our products, so to make them available for people that walk into stores and things like that. So our approach to this, our online store, retailers, brick and mortar, and of course, we have online resellers that are starting to spin off in order to have access to the product as well.
That's
If
good. Are you
you
going to be at SHOT Show?
Yeah, actually, last year we exhibited at SHOT Show, right? And it was our first time, and I'll tell you, it was an experience, right? Uh,
Right.
but this year, because we have partners now that are actually launching products. As a matter of fact, the partner that makes the cable locks and the trigger locks is actually officially launching their product line at SHOT Show. We are basically going to be there. We're not going to exhibit because now we have partners that are carrying the product.
So
But
it's
we
like
are,
Regal, like
yeah, exactly.
Regal.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just
yeah,
want people to be able to find you.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah, so we actually have a couple of partners that are going to be the Regal products, and because I wasn't sure if they were comfortable me bringing their name, but Regal Products has been an incredible partner for us. They know cable locks, they know trigger locks, they know safety devices, right? And they're lockstep with us. And we need to bring them to the next level of technology, right? So yes, they actually in their booth, they're going to be displaying some of these products. You could actually see them. I'm going to be visiting them, but they will have that. We also are going to be announcing a partnership with a company called Coreware Software. Coreware Software basically does software for POS systems and things like that for retails. We also are going to be announcing them at that point that we're going to have some new technology we're going to make available. So I'll be in between areas, but absolutely we are going to be attending the show and visiting some of our new partners.
okay, looks like we got somebody else in the chat. Let's see, the price is going to have to plummet because biometric trigger locks can be gotten for around $80. This product seems interesting.
Yeah,
It's fair.
so I think that there is, again, there's always that approach that not all technology is the same either, right? Um, so biometric, and I've been in technology for a long time. Biometric is a very unique technology that is it requires for you to spend the right amount of money for it to be effective, efficient, and always working properly, right? One of the reasons why the technology that we brought out is at a price point that we're talking about is because the biometric technology is one of the best in the industry. It is not a Chinese biometric technology; it's actually European biometric technology, one of the best providers in the world about biometric. So to get that difference of how it works, you have to bring the best into it. And we felt, and this partner felt that in order to make this work every single time, that it was effective and that it worked in an instant, we needed to bring the best biometric technology possible. Now, in the future, we might be able to reduce the cost to that. But today, it is something that we feel very capable. It's been tested with water, oil, blood, dust, in order to be able to, react the way we wanted to react. So there's a lot that went behind this design, and biometric is one of the ones that we spend a lot of time looking at.
Timmy O brought that to our attention too, and I know that when you shop on Amazon, you don't necessarily get what you hope you're getting in spite of the flashy ads. Is there a mechanism that's available for consumer, I guess, examination that differentiates among, elite, good, fair, poor, of the types of technology that you and Timmy talk about? Because the last thing anybody wants in a crisis is for their stuff to fail, right? Because it's just poorly made, or it's rapidly made, or quality control isn't there. Like, I don't know how to differentiate if I'm layperson user who's just looking online and I want something, I'll go with anything, but it might not be the best thing. How do I know, how do I know that yours is the one versus the one with all capital letters on the Amazon website?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very challenging question to answer, but I'll try to do my best on what I look for personally, right? There is a lot of certifications that these products need to, have in order for them to work. So as a consumer, most of us don't even think about those things, right? You have to be cognizant of the fact that some products are not meeting certain specifications, right? You might want to look for things, everything from the product being UL listed, right, which is or CE listed, all the way to is the product RoHS compliant. And RoHS compliance is just the type of components that are utilized in order to make the products environmentally safe and that they meet a certain level of standards. UL is probably one of the best that you could look at because of the testing that you have to do. As a matter of fact, one of the things, Jake, that we just completed ourselves, and we didn't know this, products that are using coin cell batteries, and we do. A couple things. Our batteries last anywhere between 12 to 18 months, and you basically replace it with a coin cell battery. So there's no charging that is required. The other thing behind it is that we don't charge for the service. You take the product, you take it home, you connect it, your service is free. We don't have a monthly subscription, which is a key to many people that are afraid of having to be locked in. But one thing that just happened is a new regulation just came in that all devices that use coin cell batteries have to meet what is called Reese's Law. It's a federal mandate that it was created due to the fact that a child took a product and swallowed the coin cell battery and died 2 days later. Okay. So now all manufacturers that use coin cell batteries are required to pass UL 4200A, and they need to have a very small badge on every single box. So if you're concerned about child safety, it's not just about the product itself and how it's utilized, it's also how the product is built, right? So those are the type of marks. And like I said, it's a very challenging question because there's a lot of marks that you have to look at. But again, also know where it's coming from. Is it a US-based company versus a Chinese company, etc.? Again, I'm not saying that they're not good products. I'm just necessarily saying that in some cases, the standards we use to create products here in the US are different than what it will be done overseas, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if I'm buying Christmas lights and they only last a season, I don't really care. But if I'm buying a firearm safety device and it doesn't work, I'm going to be in pretty deep water. How many devices can you use or add to the account in the app?
Yeah, so the app actually is unlimited. You could add as many devices. We basically you could create groups of 10, okay, and those groups could be utilized, in any way you want to do. To us, there's no additional fee in any way, shape, or form. Whether you have one device, two devices, 10 devices, you don't pay a fee for us to monitor any of them. Now, one of the things that we are going to be again extending the security and safety one project we're working on, which has been a bit delayed, is that a lot of customers did ask us about, so what that I get a notification? I'm traveling, I'm in Vegas at the SHOT Show. My notifications comes through. There's no one home. What do I do? Right. So we actually have partnered with alarm.com. And alarm.com, we're going to be providing a service. This is unfortunately, it cannot be included, but it's going to be $4.99 a month. But what it does is that you could sign up to that service, and in case you do get an alert, right, and you do have that service, you click on the notification, and a live agent comes on the other side, and you are able to tell them what you want them to do. Maybe you want to have dispatch of police, an emergency service. Maybe you want to call family and friends to address the problem, right? So in that case, we are taking this to the next level of security, very similar to a security system for your house. Now we're basically going to have that capability so that you're able to dispatch people or emergency services to your house if needed.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. And I'm gonna tell a story that I've told before, but like this would be a perfect example where your technology, not the last piece that you just said, but just your technology period would have been great. The first time I ever shot a gun was a negligent discharge. Basically, I was at a friend's house. My friend's dad was, I believe he's a DEA agent. My friend knew exactly where his 9mm Beretta was. We went upstairs. He showed me the gun. He took the magazine out. He pointed the gun at the bed, at his dad's bed. And then he looked at me and he goes, "Do you think this thing is still loaded?" And thank God I had the sense to like put his arm down, and I grabbed the gun from him and I was like, "Let's just go outside and see." And, I shot a hole in his lawn in the backyard, which was, we were able to cover that up. Thank God. Because I can only imagine what his father would have done to us. But my point being is, how great would it have been if his father would have gotten, I mean, first of all, it's irresponsible storage of a firearm, but let's put that aside for a second. But his father was able to call the house and be like, "My gun just moved. What the hell are you two doing?" You know what I mean? Like, if the phone, right? Like, in this day and age, everybody has a cell phone, right? So, I just wanted to give a real live working example, and something that I'm ashamed of, but I need to talk about it because I am that guy or that kid that could have used that product, or, or a course like Kids to Kings, right? We look at all these gun safety course, like these things, because of not understanding one in the chamber could have killed one of us.
Yeah.
But I think like this is a perfect working example, and I just wanted to share
It's
that.
interesting you say that, Mike, because if you read a lot of the news, right, a lot of the accidents that are occurring is not because the son of the farm owner is the one that causes the problem. In many instances, they're basically bringing their friends, right? And hey, I want to show you this, and even though they might be able to handle it and they're safe because they're being taught how to be safe around firearms, doesn't necessarily mean that their friends know what they're doing, right? As a matter of fact, there was something that just happened, I think is in Atlanta, I think a few weeks back, where I guess a bunch of buddies got together, and one of the friends went into the bedroom, right, and saw a gun, picked it up, started playing with it, and shot one of their friends, right? It wasn't even the son that was that created the problem. It was the friend that just walked into the room randomly and picked it up. So again, I think that the technology is there to help. It's not necessarily going to prevent something from really happening, but it does give you that information and that level of self-assurance that if something does occur, I will be notified about it, right? That is our premise. Now, do we have all these ideas about things that we want to be able to do? Absolutely. But to me, a firearm, whether it's in a safe or we have one of our products on it, is better than it not, right? So I just think that this is a big, but again, if people to until feel more comfortable with it over time, I think that things are going to get better. It's all about education, exposure, and visibility, and we do appreciate you guys giving us that opportunity, because this is really what we want to do in 2025. Just educate more and expose that technology is available for people to utilize.
I'm thinking of the programs that are in place now, chiefly through the VA and a lot of the state suicide prevention efforts that are going on. They they have a little bit of money. They end up paying for gun locks, the traditional cable locks they distribute at every tabling event that they ever go to. I'm wondering if there's some opportunity now, if the new federal administration, if they manage to reinvent the so-called Office of Gun Violence Prevention into an Office of Firearm Safety, could kick down some appropriations money to the various programs to pay for this type of technology that's many steps beyond the simple cable locks that people often, scoff at. Maybe you could get this stuff into the hands of the VA and the suicide prevention people to distribute just for free. Obviously we'd have to talk about, costs and all that stuff, and work with the various health and human services departments and whatnot. But that to me seems like where you have the biggest advantage is just your company gets paid for it, but they get distributed far and wide, for free or for low cost, to the people who otherwise may not be able to afford this type of device, but they want it, right? And I think that would be a great use of policy and taxpayer dollars.
And I could tell you that Jake, that is a big discussion we have had with Regal Products and others, right? About how do we get the technology to be fully accessible. I got to be honest with you, the technology, it's all about volume because you are dealing with devices, right? So the more you get out there and the more people start to utilize the technology or the products, and you start to see those volumes, you start to actually bring them down.
Absolutely.
But we do think that that there is possibilities where programs could be created that the delta between what you pay today to what a fully fledged technology product will look like, the delta could be covered, right? And if we're able to do that, then programs that you could give this away to people could actually come to fruition very quickly. One of the things that we learn is, we've been talking to a couple of sheriff's associations, and what they share with us is that cable locks and trigger locks, people want them, but at the same time, they don't. Sometimes they lose that connection, right? And what I mean by that is that they see a device, you put it on a gun, and like I said, it's boring. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't give me any information, etc. So what they got excited about our product is that it it connects the individual to that firearm at all times, right? And what's happening. It becomes more of a dynamic product than a static product that doesn't do anything. So again, I think that this is the type of excitement we got to create with people, and they felt that connecting them closer will be a big plus for them. So a lot in the works for us. We're very excited about 2025. And it's just a matter of working with the different agencies and individuals. And like I said, our partners are very excited, and they know how to bring products like this to market. So you'll see hopefully a bigger a bigger opportunity of accessing them through different types of channels and different retailers in the market.
Yeah, one of the things that Kevin and I talk about this, Kevin Barry, show producer and our marketing guy, right? Our marketing guru, my brain half the time, Jake's brain half the time, right? But like, he always makes a good point when he's talking about these products. And you kind of mentioned this earlier. You brought it up in sort of a roundabout way, but like people look at firearms as a necessity, right? Like you need a firearm for safety. And then this product comes along, and although people want it, I think it's more considered a luxury, right? To be able to afford to have that piece on there. And I always thought Kevin nailed that when he says it about these things, because that's a challenge you're up against.
That's correct.
How to make people kind of view it as this is also a necessity, right? And it could be a necessity for many ways, right? Not only to protect your family, your community, yourself, but also to protect the Second Amendment, right? Because I think the expectation level of us has been so low for so many years. And that's one of the reasons why I think Jake and I dominate when we go into rooms, is because they expect us to just default to the old ways of doing things and, act like an old cable lock, right? Like default to Pride from My Cold Dead Hands and Second Amendment. And, I think like these are the type of products that could really get people to stop falling back on the traditional ways of how they think gun owners should be safe, which is usually restriction or punishment.
That's right.
So,
Yeah. But I could tell you,
I
Mike,
think
that there's another piece that we did not touch on, and I just want to make a quick point around that. That you know, all of us really believe in our Second Amendment, our right, to own our firearms, etc. And I will say that my perspective is that the majority of firearm owners, they are very safe, right? They understand that this is not a toy. Now, the reality of it, though, is that unfortunately, there's this group of individuals that don't really follow that mentality. But things have changed, right? It's not just about safety now, it's about liability, right? And well, my son did that, not me, right? Well, that has completely shifted. One of the reasons why I wanted to attend the AOR conference is because of that, right? Is I'm not an attorney, I'm not a legal expert, but what I do know is that when an accident occurs with a firearm, parents are liable now, right? And what does it take for a parent to be able to show that they've done everything in their power to have a firearm at home that is as safe as possible, right? So this is something we got to also talk about, right? It's not putting fear on people. That's not the goal of this, right? But why do you have an insurance policy in your house? Just in case. Why do you have an insurance in your vehicle? Just in case, right? It's the same thing for us, right? I mean, from a technology point of view, being able to collect that data and know that something has happened, at least it shows that, hey, I was aware of this. I took the best possible action to deal with it, right? I mean, it's whether someone breaks into your home and takes one of your firearms, even if it's not your primary firearm, they took my firearms, right? I had a person that reached out to me and said, hey, if someone breaks into my house and they take my firearms, can I pull down all the history so that I'm able to show it to my insurance company, that I'm able to show it to the police that, hey, look, this firearm did get stolen. It's no longer under my possession. And here's the data to prove it, right? So again, I think that this is an area that we are trying to understand better, but people need to recognize that there is this new liability bucket that is starting to take even more ground in the market, and we need to understand how that's going to impact our lives, right? And technology could help that in some way, shape, or form. So something to think about, that is not just about safety or security anymore. It's about the risk that you're taking and how to mitigate that risk by using technology, right? That information is power, data is power. Is whether you have it or not when it's really needed is kind of what you need to be thinking about, right?
Mike, you used to work in the industry, and you sold guns, you marketed them, you imported them, you distributed them. Well, you didn't distribute them, but you gave them to people to distribute. And I know that I'm talking about adding cost, but the same way that we ask manufacturers to put our cards in the boxes to invite people to check in on their mental health through screenings, I'm wondering if there's an avenue by which when you purchase a gun, the manufacturer or the distributor could even, halfway down the stream, put in this device so that it's an option, right? It could be an add-on, or maybe we get to the point where the Delta has moved to the point where it's cost effective enough just to include it. Maybe the Rugers of the world start saying, "Hey, when you buy a new 1022 takedown, you get a free Ocufii tag, right? Or transmitter." That might be revolutionary in and of itself, because it changes the entire narrative of the expectation is not that you're buying a gun, but you're buying a gun and the protection mechanism that goes along with keeping it responsibly safely stored. I think William just dropped off.
Maybe he just hated your idea so much.
Terrible. Yeah, but hopefully he rejoins. But what do you see that as a possibility? Because I'm asking you about it because you were there. Is that something that people would have an appetite for, especially with the plausible deniability that we're talking about?
I think it's a possibility. I think people would cringe at the idea if you move towards every single firearm came with it. But if it was an option like an OEM program, that they could test. And also all those OEM programs are all based on how great the industry is doing. When times are good, every manufacturer is open to an OEM program because they want to find ways to increase their SKU line and pump more guns out there, right? I'll give you a prime example. The Burst of Thunder 380, we were always looking for, when we first started, we didn't pay attention to accessories. We just sold them. We were always oversold, so it didn't matter. But when the time came where we had extra guns, it was like, how do we make these guns? How do we differentiate these guns and make them different? So we looked for laser companies because that was one place we were lacking. And then I used to go to Crimson Trace and I would beg them to make a grip laser for the 380. And I got rejected a lot because Crimson Trace always said, there's no way someone's going to pay for a laser the same amount they paid for that gun. And, I stuck with it. And I kept showing them all the emails we were getting. And eventually one day, I went into the booth, I dropped to my knees and I was like, please, 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 please. And they were like, okay, we'll give it a shot. And we became one of their best OEM. We were in the top 5, I think, of OEM sales for the Burst of Thunder with that laser thing. So if times are bad, the manufacturer is going to be like, I just need to figure out what I need to sell here. But when times are good, that's when you could probably get them to open up to maybe some of those OEM, let's do a kit together, however you want to title the kit. But I think it's very possible. And I think it's an added benefit that people would like. I mean, I don't want to go on too long, but I don't know how many times I sold a Thunder 380 to a female when I was working promotions behind the counter of like a gun shop. I do that sometimes as a sales rep when I started, and it was the integral locking system that sold the gun to them, because I said, hey, do you have grandkids, or you have kids, or do you ever have kids over, you ever want to disable your firearm, here's this little cool key, and it lock, you know what I mean? And then you always had your guy that's like, I would never lock my gun. Well, that's great that you would never do it, but she does it, and now she wants to buy this firearm because of that feature alone, right? And some people would say, oh, I'd love to buy a kit that came with everything I needed to secure my firearm, like the Tag Me product. So I think it's possible.
Well, I think that's probably a good place to stop. I'm gonna kick it back to William, and you already spit out the websites, but let's throw them out there again. You got OccupyStore.com, and anything else you want to share with everybody before we wrap up here?
And
Well,
recap where you're going to be at SHOT,
Yeah, yeah,
please, because I think some people
Yeah.
will.
So again, guys, I don't know how to thank you enough. This has been great, and hopefully, I did enough of a good job. You guys will invite me again, because I definitely want to, be part of your show again. But yes, as far as information, you could go to both of our websites, Ocufii.com. That's our, standard website. You get all the information about our products and how they're used, and then you got OccupyStore.com, where you're able to buy it. As far as SHOT Show is concerned, we actually are going to be with some of our partners. Regal Products is going to be introducing their line of product to the industry and launching it there. So, you're welcome to attend that booth and see the products. We also are going to be with another partner software company, Coreware Software. Look for their booth. We're going to be introducing some new technology as well that you might be interested in. You could always reach out to me if someone is interested on learning more about our products or understanding. My email, wsandoval@ocufii.com. We'll definitely love to hear some feedback about what you learned today and what we could do to improve it, or if there is any thoughts about what we should be doing in the future to get the word out to people. My last thoughts is, technology is here. I think we all use it on a daily basis. There's really no reason to be afraid of it. I think that the technology that we and others are bringing to market could really make a difference in this world now, right? This is not about just a widget or a toy. These are life-saving, products, and we want to be able to utilize technology to connect, the individuals to those, assets, right? So, just give it a chance. Look at the options. There's plenty out there. We're just one of the ones out there, and we think our product is one of the best, but there's many options out there. But we definitely look forward to bringing other options to the market and make 2025 a great year. So thanks
Social
again.
media, where are you guys on social media?
Yes, we actually are on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and I think X. So yeah, we're trying to do a much better job at getting things out there, and we do have a marketing campaign talking about the education around gun safety and just giving tips on what are things that people should be thinking about, so that we could actually generate more awareness around the technology and the products that are out there. But yeah, social media, you could definitely follow us on that as well.
Right on. Thank you very much for making the time, and I appreciate what you're doing out there. It's very innovative and cool, and hopefully we'll try to make it cool for other people and also spread the words to get it into the hands of the people who need it the most. So appreciate you. Thank you. I look
No,
forward to
thank
seeing
you
you
so
a
much, Jake.
week
Thank you so
ahead.
much, Mike. And great to see you guys again. And I look forward to seeing you at SHOT Show. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
On behalf of all of our platinum sponsors and our partners, thanks for listening. Share this around and make somebody else's day a little bit brighter and a little bit safer, a little bit more responsible. Thanks for downloading. We will see you in the future. We wish you all great mental wellness. Bye bye.